From abusive relationship and drugs to helping women spiritual entrepreneurs that live in their life dreams. What? Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Dupree, scouring the globe to bring you stories of courage, passion, and resilience. If I could sum up this podcast into one word, I would use empathy. Now let's get inspired. Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I am your host once again, Brett Dupree, here to drop some spiritual knowledge down on you. Today we talk to Christina Martine, which is an interesting conversation of another person who went through great trauma and now is helping people reclaim their power. But first, we have to do the thing where I talk about myself. Because if I can't be vulnerable, how can I expect my guest to be vulnerable as well? Well, in this 40th episode of the Joyous Expansion Podcast, today is my birthday. Yes, I am recording this on my birthday. I am taking this day off of my day job, which if you don't know is a software tester. That's what I do for money. This is what I do for future money. Hopefully someday down the road when I put the work in and all that fun stuff and things start happening finally. Hoping that happens sooner or later than later, because I love talking to these people. I love helping people, and I just love personal development and motivation and inspiration so much. So working on making money doing that. Yes, on my day off, I am finishing up my podcast. About now, I would be getting home, so I haven't been as diligent, if you will. It's not like I've just been 100% work and no play, even though I did go to a Toastmaster meeting this morning, meeting my fourth out of the 5 clubs in my district, as I am an area director. But thinking about my birthday, I kind of like doing a year-in review of my life, thinking where I was 1 year ago today to where I am now. This has been a very interesting year for me, my 40th year on this planet. I was hoping that I would do something about my weight this year, as I didn't want to be in my 40s, 400 in my 40s, which is I am right now. And that's not fun, to be honest. A lot of pain, especially back pain, knee pain, all the pain in the joints, because, you know, that is a lot of weight to hold. But luckily, I do have a lot of muscle, so I'm not completely incapacitated. But at the same time, it's still hard to move around. However, at the same time, it's still hard to not eat all the ice cream in the world, because ice cream is freaking delicious. So I'm thinking of September 3rd is going to be another restart of going on that regard. This has been probably my worst year in this regard, but I guess it's best because I've been relatively the same weight, just up and down the same 30 pounds, and 30 pounds might sound a lot to you, but honestly, for me, well, it's more up and down the same 20 pounds, but to me, 20 pounds is me getting a little water logged, you know, drinking a bunch of water and having it stay and eating a big meal. I'm up 20 pounds, and then I just eat well for eat well for a week, and I'm down 20 pounds, just because all that stuff leads the body. So I guess in that aspect of being consistent and not gaining weight this year has been good. In my love life, that has been probably the best ever. 2 days from now, last year, I met the woman that is turning into the love of my life. So that is going good. It's a long distance relationship, which is kind of difficult, but at the same time, it has been fun, and I've enjoyed going out with her and cuddling and all those things and, getting to know her better and getting to know her kids, and, so far so good. As we haven't been dating for years, just in 2 days is when I actually met her before we started dating in October. So that is fun. In business life, the podcast, this year I was going strong. In a couple of days is when I kind of slipped into a mini depression around September until I think January, I believe. I let a few things of my life bother me. Some of them were Toastmaster related. Being the public relations manager was not as good as I'd hoped it would be. I was very demoralized at this point in time. Extremely demoralized. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I was hoping for so much more, and it turned out to be so much less. And it felt like I was just pushing to get basic things done. And felt like I was walking on a tightrope always. It was not good, and that I allowed it to affect my mental state. And then the podcast also was doing that to me, because at this point is when it was starting to get hard to get guests, and I started working less on it at the same time. I kind of felt just this overwhelm of too many things. Plus, at this time, I was also starting the Lightworker Toastmasters. and really trying to get that off the ground. And that was taking a lot of emotional energy from me. So the combination of Lightworkers and the podcast not going as I wanted to, I was really on the success part of my podcast, as I've mentioned, and not getting the views that I wanted, not getting the downloads that I wanted was really taking its toll on me. Not getting the guests to commit and show up. Podcast guests has been a savior for that. I mean, I got about 58 contacts from there, and of that, I believe like 17 people, the last I counted, are from podcastguest.com. So if you're looking to find people on your podcast, and yeah, plus now that I have 40 now podcasts, it's easier to get people to show up because I have a bunch of podcasts. It gives me more clout to getting guests, which is good. Plus, I also have a better attitude. Before, I was really felt when I was editing, I was thinking, why am I doing this? No one listening anyway. And that just made it difficult to do that and to continue to do that. And so that mindset shift, which I've been talking about, has helped me. I'm not getting the views I want. Some are really good. Some are getting better. Sometimes I still get when a podcast only gets 3 to 5 listens, which isn't ideal, but at the same time, I'm happy with what I'm doing and I'm enjoying doing this. And plus I have podcasts out to at least October right now. And so I have plenty of guests and plenty of people who are still interested in being guests or will be guests eventually. And I still have 18 more people on podcast guests. And then I'll start reaching out to more and more people. So the podcast is going good. My career, I'm a full-time employee. My software testing life, I'm a full-time temp, which is a weird thing. I became a contract for another company, and I'm a contractor for the company I work for. However, I got my certification that I was supposed to get. I should be full-time, and I believe things are going well to try to build something there as I build something here. I know this kind of makes a dual loyalty type situation of me on my life, but at the same time, once this starts making money and I can start putting more money into this and also, help more people and really create a community of people who want to change their lives with the Church of Awesome, I'm excited about that. I also started the Church of Awesome, which was really cool. An idea that I've been having. I haven't fully stepped into my purpose in it. I've been kind of dipping my toe in the Church of Awesome, mostly because there is a part of me holding back, and I know why it's there. It's just the idea I'll start and then nothing will happen, and pretty much the same thing that would happen to this podcast would happen to me trying to build that community. And just gotta get over it and just gotta remember the fun of it and the fact that as long as I'm getting something awesome out of it, living a life of awesome, and if I can just get a few people to jump on board, that'd be awesome. I love that word, awesome. Starting the Church of Awesome podcast has been super cool. That gets more lessons than this podcast. But yeah. Also, I came to a few realizations in the last year. Next week, I'm going to be talking about one thing that I've been putting off for a while because I believe in my little community and this podcast, putting it out there might hurt it. A new belief that I have, which is, quite frankly, I don't believe in the law of attraction anymore. I have no belief in it. I enjoy it and I still follow a lot of its principles, but as a belief, I do not believe in it at all. And next week I'll be talking about that. That would be the podcast because I thought of it last year and I've been kind of holding back on that. And one of my realizations is this holding back is what's holding me back from everything else. The idea of how you treat everything, how you treat anything is how you treat everything. And thus holding me back in putting things out there and really connecting with people is holding this truth that I have inside. And that's, at least in one of my cacao ceremonies, that was the idea that came to me. Oh yeah, I had this fun realization when I was working with Angie Cherbois on her havening techniques. She's awesome. I think she's podcast 4, one of my early podcasts. I like going with her every once in a while. And the big thing that I came to was the fact that I no longer want to use getting over my mother's abandonment as part of my story. I want to leave even the point of being over that as, I want to leave the idea of even being over that as behind me. Because keeping that as part of my story as I am now 41, and it happened when I was 8, and I've been working on it since I was 26 for 5 to 10 years, and building upon that is another way to, I have plenty of things to work on that's not that. And yes, something might come up from that in the future, and then I'll just work on it then. But to keep it as part of my story, to keep it as part of who I am, even that allows that to keep on kind of controlling me. It allows me to keep stuck in the past when I'm working on moving forward in the future. And in the future, I don't want the idea that my mom abandoned me when I was young and now that I'm over it to be a main part of my story. Now my main part of my story is basically I want to create an awesome community with awesome people as we try to live our best awesome lives, and the only thing holding me back is my personal fears in trying to build that. I'll allow that to be my story because that is what I truly want to work on. And if something in my mom's abandonment comes up during that, yes, work on that, cure that, or not cure it, but work on that, work through that. But that is just thing that happened in my past. It might be something along the line of my dad, or something along with my sisters, or something along with school, or something along with that time I lost all my friends. Or there's this one instance in 6th grade where I lost like 4 or 5 of my friends all in one day, and that was my main friend group. And of course, when you're 12 and obviously having abandonment issues, feeling abandoned there also hurts as well. And that did attribute to that feeling of abandonment that I went through, and that sucked. But at the same time, holding on to that doesn't serve me, and I want to embrace the things in my life that serve me and let go of the things that not. And sometimes even the story of the growth is something that will hold me back, because then I am personifying or associating myself with that idea. And now it's just time to leave that behind. That was my big revelation in the last year. And speaking of big revelations, I am excited for you to listen to Christina Martine. Christina Martine is a spiritual teacher, a visionary coach, and a visionary coach. She helps women claim their true wealth and power so that they can create the life and business of her dreams. Now here is my interview with Christina Martine. Hello, Christina, and welcome to my podcast.
Hi, nice to be here.
How is your fine day going?
It's going well. I just woke up to a beautiful rainy day here in Vancouver, BC.
Nice. So it says here you're a spiritual teacher and visionary coach. How did you get started?
Do you want the whole story?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that this whole path that I went on came from a lot of pain in my life, and it kind of woke me up pretty quickly. I grew up in a pretty abusive household, and there was a lot of unconsciousness and addiction and things like that. And it was very painful for me because I didn't know at the time, when I was a child, but I was very empathic. So if people aren't sure what that means, empath is someone who can really feel the emotions of other people. So I always thought maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe people are mad at me or something like that. I didn't know that it wasn't my fault, that all these horrible things were going on. I often tried to escape my reality, and I ended up turning to drugs and alcohol and things. And I was in a very dark place for a long time. And I even tried to commit suicide at age 17, unsuccessfully, obviously. After that experience, I remember kind of falling to my knees in this fit of ecstasy and hearing this voice. And I didn't know it at the time, but now I kind of see it as the voice of my higher self. And it told me, Christina, you're meant to be here. If you kill, you're going to have to come back and do this all over again. And I started to question, well, if I'm meant to be here, then maybe I have a purpose, and maybe all of this means something. So I started to inquire, and I started to practice meditation, and I really started to watch my mind. I saw that I didn't have to listen to my thoughts as if they were gods, right? And I saw that I was this spiritual being beyond my body, beyond all the temporary labels we give ourselves. And I had this major awakening as I continued to practice different spiritual practices, meditation, energy healing stuff. And I just really had to share, because I felt so compelled to share this perspective with people. So I went on YouTube and I started speaking, and that led to working with clients in coaching sessions and astrology readings and everything. And it just kind of became my path, because there was no other choice for me but to share when I found this new perspective.
How was it at first when you found your new perspective?
Oh, it was definitely confusing for a lot of people. I felt excited about my perspective. I was reading a lot of Eckhart Tolle when all of this was happening, and I feel like that The Power of Now, that book, really was a major catalyst for my awakening. And I would always tell people his philosophies about how there's only now and we're these spiritual beings. Not everyone got it. And a lot of people were like, oh, you sound kind of crazy. But I knew in my heart that what I was speaking was true. And so I just stuck to what I was doing, and I just found other people who were processing the same kind of transition.
So what was about the power of now that really spoke to you? What was the crux of the teaching? Just being in the now,
Yeah,
or?
well, I was very mind identified. And I think, every human on planet Earth is addicted to thinking. And we think that we're these separate identities, right? We have these egos where we're just basically the ego is a function that allows us to move as separate entities. It's a self-preservation mechanism. But when we put too much attention on it and we think we are only these separate beings, that's where all these problems arise. So I saw that people were really focusing on the ego too much, and they were disconnected from their true self and disconnected from other people. And that's where all the problems were coming from. All the wars and fights for power, it was all just this delusional clinging to the ego and clinging to the sense of self that needed to protect itself. So the ego is very unstable, and it's always looking to fight people because it needs to become better or feel separate to feel in control. And you can see this all throughout the media, and you can easily see if people are very mind identified. You can just feel that there's some kind of fight within them. This book in particular showed me that the resistance and this inner conflict could end if you just decided that you didn't want to continue the fight, you didn't want to continue to find problems. And the mind really wants to judge things as negative or positive, but in reality, things just are. And I stopped trying to fit my life into my story, into my mind's story of how things should go. And everything just became easier. I moved into a space of trust and just compassion for other people, because I saw that we were really the same essence underneath the illusion of a physical form and everything that's temporary. It just made life a lot easier. So I wanted to help people just come to the same realization. And it's an ongoing practice, right? We all fall off the path, but I think if people even get a little glimpse of the greater truth, they start to relax into that trust, into that space of calm and acceptance of life.
So you said that things started getting easier and easier, which seems to me that at times that means especially at first, your ego was kicking and screaming at.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that situation? How did you push forward and continue to improve?
Honestly, I was so mind identified and just so stuck in my thoughts and depressed. And because of that, as a youth, even, that I had to force myself to sit down in my practice and just breathe, like just watch my breath. And it sounds so simple, but it was really such a powerful experience, because the more you do that, the more you practice, the effects are visible on so many levels. You feel better, you interact with people better. The way your energy flows in your body determines the quality of your thoughts and how you just go about everything in your life. I really feel that it's a constant practice. It was a forceful thing for me at first. I had to go, okay, now I have to meditate, or now I even set alarms and I go, you have to do this. It's not very beneficial to meditate for like 10 hours and then not do it again. It's more beneficial to do it every day, even if it's for like 10 minutes, because then you're going to see the benefits really. And I think anyone can do that, right? Fit in like 10 minutes in their day. So that's what I always try to remind people.
So you set alarms for yourself, it sounds like?
I do, yeah, to remind me to meditate or drink water or whatever. It helps me.
That's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
So at first, what were the main benefits you saw from your meditation practice when you first got started?
I think I was just able to watch my mind instead of being so attached to my mind and thinking that I was my thoughts, or I was this identity that I needed to feed. I was able to disattach from it and just kind of look at it almost like it was like a little child or something that needed to be quieted down. And I would kind of go like, oh, it's okay. I know you're having a temper tantrum, but things are going to be okay. The more you practice just mindfulness in any way that you want, people do Reiki or yoga or whatever, even going for walks on the beach or something like that. The more you do that, the more you're able to just kind of watch your mind and see that some of the thoughts that arise are just so silly, and we don't have to listen to them. We don't have to let them ruin our day or take us on some kind of emotional roller coaster. If we start to see these obsessive patterns, like as humans, we always get these weird obsessive thoughts. We have these like neural pathways, and they're so random and stupid, but we just kind of fall into them because they make us feel some sort of comfort or something. And when you meditate, you can basically watch these patterns and stop feeding them. And then just breathing and that mindfulness will, in my opinion, it creates like new, better pathways in the brain. I'm sure there's a bunch of scientific information people can Google about it. It just makes you feel a lot more peaceful, and isn't that what we're all striving to feel? Just happy and good, right?
Exactly. So you said when you first started out, you put videos on YouTube. Was there any trepidation or fear on putting yourself out there?
Oh yeah, I was really like awkward and nervous, and I would shake when was filming myself, and I would say all the time, and I would freak out if things went wrong with my camera issues or something like that. But I knew that it was something I needed to do. I needed to express myself, and I started to realize, it wasn't about me. And when I took myself out of the situation and really focused on my act of divine service and how I was going to help people, then I started to calm down a little bit. So I think that if, people are listening to this and they feel compelled to share something, they really have to understand that it's coming from a place that's higher. And if they make it about them, they're going to feel all sorts of fear and trepidation. But if they realize that it's bigger than them, right? If they focus on the act of service, then the fear will just dissipate, and the power of love will just, flow through you, as cheesy as that sounds.
So it turns out Huey Lewis and the News is right. It is the power of love.
Yeah.
But that's so cool, being able to focus on the why you're doing it and the power within you and the voice within you to share out, helping you to push through those fears. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think if you know the why, then the what becomes easier. I think that's Tony Robbins.
So what do you love most about making your YouTube videos?
It's nice that I have an audience that listens to me. That's nice. I think I've done it for so long, and I've garnered so many people to me just by speaking my truth. It's been really nice to have people message me and go, your words have really affected me, and they've helped me so much through this tough transition. And I know when I was in lower places, certain words in books would trigger these awakenings in me, or I would watch YouTube videos, and it was so comforting to me to know that other people were going through the same thing. And so if I can even help one person with my video or with my work or courses, then that means the world to me, right?
So you started with making YouTube videos, and then you transitioned into helping people. How did that look like?
I guess a little messy at first. I think it was just a natural progression. I never really liked doing the whole 9 to 5 thing. And I thought, well, I like helping people. I like talking, and I've studied all sorts of healing arts and everything in astrology. So why don't I start speaking to people? And it was a little nerve-wracking at first. And I don't think I was very good at it at first, but I just kept doing it and kept doing it. I definitely got better and more comfortable with speaking to random people from all over the world. And then once again, I definitely focused on, I reminded myself to focus on the service rather than my selfish fears and things like that. And it just, it was just a natural progression. And I think that it was just part of my path because I had been through such darkness, I guess, growing up. And I was so empathic that I knew that I had this power to really hold space for people and heal people, or help people heal themselves rather.
So did you experience the fraud phenomenon, this who am I to help people when you started?
Oh yeah, I would definitely question myself all the time. I would go, who's going to buy my courses or book with me? But I just knew there was a bigger part of me that kept telling me, you just have to trust. You have to trust that if you remain in the right vibration, that energy is just going to magnetize the right people to you. And at first, I definitely drew in some people who weren't really ready to invest in themselves or really weren't on the right vibration, especially when I charged lower for my sessions, for my courses. I drew in people who didn't really respect my work, maybe just wanted to use me kind of thing. It took a long time for me to learn about the business aspects of spiritual sessions and things like that. And that was a whole process itself. And that was just a lesson in my own self-worth. And I think that people really have to know if they want to do this type of stuff, that your services is worthy of high compensation. If you're a healer or you're doing this type of work, you really have to think, like, what am I doing for these people? I'm holding space for these people to reclaim their health back and their lives back. Like, that's priceless. That's one of my main messages now. For the women I work with, I focus on working with women entrepreneurs now. I always remind them that your work is so sacred and it's so worthy of high compensation. And that's not what they believe often, because people have quite a bit of resistance to charging money for spiritual services, but I feel like they're just as important as anything else, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Almost more important.
Yeah.
I mean, after food and drink and shelter, I think just even having good spiritual base helps the rest of your life. And honestly, you could probably feel better about not having shelter.
Yeah. You could be present and happy, I guess.
Who is your ideal client?
Oh, God, currently, just someone who is, well, I work with females right now only, like female spiritual entrepreneurs, mostly spiritual entrepreneurs. So just someone who's open and ready to say goodbye to fear and just, meet me where I am and just be open to learning and yeah, just ready to put in the work because it's definitely a lot of work to do what I'm doing, but it's enjoyable. You have to love it. You have to love it with all your heart and soul. You have to be really passionate, and you have to be okay with people just hating on you because it's the internet. There's definitely going to be haters, but you just can't take things personally. So
what does it look like to work with you?
I used to do sessions, like I would do astrology readings and healing sessions. So I would usually talk to just like over Skype or Zoom, and we would just enter into a video chat and I would, just talk to them or coach them and things like that, or talk to them about astrology. And now I do more like I offer more courses, I do group sessions and I do group coaching sessions. And really it's just about, connecting to people. And I feel that when you really hold space for people and just see them with judgment, that in itself is just so transformative. And I think people are really lacking that because in society we just kind of talk and then another person will just wait for the other person to stop talking so then they can continue their inner dialogue, and no one's actually like genuinely listening. So I feel that my ability, which I've gotten better at over time, my ability to actually listen is just, I think people appreciate.
Oh, it's definitely a great skill to be able to actually listen to somebody. Yeah, listening is one of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, if you ever read that book.
No, I haven't read that one.
So when it comes to working with people, what has been your main joy in doing so? What are some things you've helped people with?
Honestly, just seeing people have like major revelations about how they can let go of their past. Or I do a lot of like deep trauma. I used to do more like deep trauma healing, almost hypnosis, like taking people through trances and doing like energy healing and stuff like that. And just watching people face their demons almost, like I kind of help people go to places they don't want to go as their guide, right? And just watching people being able to process their fears and then like truly let go of them, and just seeing their body light up and their face light up with this recognition that they can truly let go of the past and they don't have to like hold on, let it control their lives anymore. Like that in itself has just been so rewarding to show people that they're, the moment is really all we have, and in this moment that's where your point of power is, and nothing in the past or future is going to give you more power or make you more worthy of love. And I think that's one of my main messages, that you are the source of your power, you are the source of your wealth. Nothing outside of you is ever going to give you more power, or it's all within you.
The power is yours.
Mm-hmm. If you want it.
So what has been some of your favorite success stories with working with people?
Let me think. I've worked with so many people, I always just kind of forget. Yeah, well, I mean, currently I'm working with women, and a lot of them have all these gifts. Women are so naturally psychic and stuff, and I work with a lot of very like intuitive women, and they've just been kind of scared to put themselves out there online because it is a pretty scary thing. I don't know. I have this like endless, almost like weird fear of courage where it annoys people, but I don't know. I'm just doing me. I feel that yeah, it's just been nice to see people who have all of this talent and all of these gifts just be able to share them and celebrate their little victories, like, oh, I did my first reading, or I actually was able to use my gifts to create income for myself, and now I can pay off my debt or pay my bills, and I never thought I would be able to do what I love for money, or like actually be able to stand up and speak my truth. And it's just, yeah, it's super nice. I can't think of like a specific example, there's too many people.
It must be fun being able to help so many people do so many cool things and really put their gifts out there.
Yeah, it's challenging sometimes, but it's fun.
What's that sense of purpose, that when you're living your purpose and living your dreams, that feeling?
I feel like if you're off purpose, and I definitely have fallen off the path and let fear just overtake my life, I feel that you just start to feel it, right? You feel uncomfortable in the place you are. You feel uncomfortable within your body. Your mind starts taking a dark turn, and coming back into that place of alignment and trust, you start to feel a lot lighter. Like I know a lot of people have asked me, well, how do I know my purpose, or how do I know that I'm on the right track? And I feel that your purpose kind of arises in the moment when you're present and when you're breathing and you're just allowing what wants to arise. And I don't necessarily feel like we came here with one purpose. Like I feel like certain things are destined. We have certain gifts. Like it's just pretty obvious that we're meant to share them. But I feel that we get to choose, what we do here. When we choose something in alignment with our heart, like when it feels good, you just know it. You get set on fire. And I think a lot of people, they run from that because it takes time to grow anything. It takes time to grow a business. It takes time to do anything in life. And a lot of people, once they start seeing things go wrong, they're like, well, this must not be my purpose. Or, they let fear take control. So I like reminding people that you really have to trust, even when things are going wrong, that everything's just unfolding and the universe is trying to teach you something, and you just gotta try not to judge things so much.
So when you get to the point where you've fallen off your path, have you gotten to a point where like meditation wasn't enough and you have to do something extra to get you back on your path?
There's been times where I've been resistant to meditation, or I've felt like plateau or something like that, and I've done other things like yoga or martial arts or energy healing and things like that. And sometimes it's good to mix things up because maybe you're just bored with your routine. It's not exciting. You're not as excited to meditate. I mean, I think everyone could be doing that. I think regardless of who you are or what you're doing in life, I think it's just most simple and most powerful practice. But if the excitement's there, you're going to want to do it. So if people want to try something else, I mean, I think that's a good way to stay on the path, right?
So we are getting towards the end of our time together, and one thing I like to ask people to do is a 1 minute of motivation. You can imagine this as if you have a time machine and you go back to your 8-year-old self and you want to impart the wisdom to that self, but unfortunately you only have a minute. Or you can think of it as taking your entire life's worth and life's message and condense it down to a minute.
What's the time here? Okay. So I would say that if I had to give the best advice I could in 1 minute, I would tell my younger self, or just tell, anyone who is listening, that where you are is where you're meant to be, regardless of what's happening, who you're with, what the mind wants to say. Where you are is where you're meant to be. And the mind will always want to judge things as good or bad, but the soul really knows why you're in the moment. If you're going through a hard thing right now, I feel that suffering is an inevitable thing here. We're all going through it. And remember that it's temporary. Usually from the most painful things, the greatest lessons come, or messages come, or power comes. Know that on the deepest level, your soul has chosen to go through these things in order for you to rise into your true power and align with the highest version of you, so you can do amazing things here. And don't ever for a second think that you don't matter, because your unique vibration is so powerful and you're meant to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina, for being on my podcast, listening to your story on how you started in an abusive household, but were able to even get to the point of wanting to end it all, but then finding something, a meditation practice that allowed you to break yourself out of it, and realizing your purpose is also to help others do the same, and then living it, even with all the voices in your head telling you that it's hard and difficult and dealing with the haters out there. But being able to push through and teaching others to push through is commendable. So thank you for being on my podcast. Thank you for sharing yourself, and thank you for the help you bring to this planet.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really fun to chat today. And thank you to the listeners.
I hope your day is special.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
And there you have it, folks. That was Christina Martine. I really liked her story on how she changed her life. Still surprises me how many of these personal development gurus started from such low vibration, if you will, drug addiction especially. This seems to be a common theme about people who reach the lows of lows are unable to bring it up. But one of the benefits I think this is when it comes to helping people, because I remember when I first started in life coaching, I was wondering what exactly I have to help people. My life has been a mess. But the reality is, the more I think about it, the more I want somebody whose life has been in a roughly similar mess. If somebody's life is perfect, how can they really help me? Because they cannot truly empathize on where I've come from. So listening to people such as Christina, who came from such humble beginnings to get to the point to where she is now, serving and helping people unleash their passions in this world, is inspiring. But you know that she can truly help you because she's been there. So when you look at your life and how much pain you have been through, a lot of that is helpful if you want to serve others. I was speaking to a Toastmaster friend of mine who is just starting a new position. This person had a position for a couple of years at a company and did not like how it was run. I was talking to her about it and celebrating her quitting that to look for a new opportunity. And one of the things I mentioned was, now you know and have experience that you can add into a future keynote on what not to do at a company, how not to run a company well. That's because when you have these bad negative experiences, you now have the ammunition to help people. And this is not to shame people of, oh, this is what I've been through so you can get through it. No, it's more along the lines of, this is how not to do it. I know I've done it so that you don't have to, because human beings have the amazing ability to learn from others. And if you talk to Douglas Adams and the declination to do so, however, we can do that. And when you hire amazing people like Christina Martine, the abundance goddess, you are basically hiring somebody who went through everything that so you don't have to go through it all that she did. At the same time, if you went through those things, now you're hiring somebody who understands that. So if you are in a position where you want to help people change their lives, if you want to motivate people, if you want to inspire people, but you're thinking to yourself that you cannot do it because you have not had the perfect life, that actually makes you better at helping people, because now you are relatable. But at the same time, you don't have to go through what someone like Christina went through. You can be relatable if you just had a mediocre life, because some people be in the situation where they're thinking to themselves, well, I wasn't a drug addict, how can I help people? Well, you could just not be living up to your full potential, and that being the thing that allows you to help people, because there are some people who are in that middling range of life and they want to take things better, and listening to some people like Christina is like, my life's not that interesting. But the reality is all lives are interesting. If you listen to these 40 episodes of this freaking podcast, you should know that life is interesting. All these people's lives are interesting, especially Christina's. So if you're interested in working with Christina runs the Abundance Goddess Academy, a 3-month group coaching program for female spiritual entrepreneurs. If you're looking to join, you can book a call with her through her website, theabundancegoddess.com. And there it is, folks, the 40th episode. Hooray! What a milestone that feels like. If you enjoy this, I would love you if you would to write a review somewhere. Give me stars if that's where you listen to. Thumbs up or whatever it takes. Share this with your friends. How cool would that be? If you have anything you would like to talk to me about or any comments, you can email me at BRE2TsDUPR2Es at joyousexpansion.com. You can also check out joyousexpansion.com on Facebook at Increase Your Joy, Instagram and Twitter at joyousexpansion. If you like more episodes, you can go to pod.joyousexpansion.com. If you want to see where I was like 5 years ago, you can go to podcast.joyousexpansion.com. Once again, this is Brett Dupree, your champion of authentic joy, your catalyst of transformation of the Church of Awesome, and your Joyous Expansion life coach. Hoping your life is amazing and wishing you once again to be loved, to be joy, to be awesome, and play that jingle.
JoyousExpansion.com JoyousExpansion.com. Come and say hello to Brett Dupree. He is an inspirational life coach. Good for you and good for me. He turned my life from grey to blue. I'm sure he'll do the same for you. Get in touch and you'll see your life will change dramatically. JoyousExpansion.com JoyousExpansion.com. Yeah.